What up? This is the Too Tall Sports Podcast. Welcome back. Glad to have you in today. My episode and interview is with Travis Chock. He's the CEO of Baseballism. It's a lifestyle brand, surrounded around the sport of baseball. It's clothing, it's apparel, it's all kinds of accessories, and they've really carved out a nice niche in the competitive world of clothing and branding. So great to track down Travis today. Had a great talk with him about his career, about what it's like to build a business, kind of the American dream from baseball, and just being part of the club of baseball. So glad to have him on today. As always, you can follow the show at Too Tall Sports Podcast on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. You can find us on YouTube. Please subscribe and hit the bell notification just to get notified every time there's a new episode that drops. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please, right now, if you can, scroll down, find those 5 stars, hit a 5-star in the rating. It'll help boost the exposure for the show. That'd be a lot of fun. Also, subscribe there as well. We're on Spotify, we're on Pandora, we're on Amazon Music, we're everywhere. So wherever you get your podcasts, Google Podcasts, we're there. So please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you can. Want to definitely grow the show, and I appreciate all of you that continue to listen every week. We drop episodes every Thursday, so we really appreciate it. And I know you guys are going to like this one as well. Also, side note, I'm going to try to link the clothes. I'm wearing the Baseballism hat, the Flagman logo. That's this one. Also, this one's kind of an LA Baseballism shirt. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see these things. I'll try to link them in the show notes so you can buy those items if you'd like. I think it's great, and it's a great brand that you can get behind. And they got some big name players behind the brand as well. So today's episode, once again, with Travis Chock, the CEO of Baseballism. This is the Too Tall Sports Podcast, and I'll see you on the other side. Too Tall Talk.
Going crazy.
All right, welcome back to the Too Tall Sports Podcast. My next guest is the CEO of Baseballism, which is a lifestyle brand established officially back in 2013. He's proud alumni of the University of Oregon, go Ducks, and he recently opened up a bunch of brick and mortar stores around the country for Baseballism. The company's doing great, and they really have a big footprint in the sport. So my guest is Travis Chock. What's up, Travis? How are you?
How's it going, Brett? How you doing?
Good, man. Glad to have you on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. It's great to have you, and definitely a lot to get to. Before we get to your career in Baseballism, I just kind of wanted to ask about 2020 for you, just for a minute or two. What was it like for you personally and professionally last year, just dealing with the pandemic and how it all went with the store and your employees and just you personally as well?
Yeah, man. 2020 was a test, just for everybody, but for us especially, because we do have a bunch of stores around the country that are brick and mortar stores, and baseball was for the most part canceled. And so because that plays such a big role in our business, it was scramble mode. When I remember when spring training got canceled on March 12th, we were actually in Scottsdale for it. And we were just like, what are we going to do? Because we had bought all this inventory for the season coming up. And then, for spring training itself. And we had all this inventory, like, what are we going to do? And so basically we just put our heads together, and baseball kind of played a big part of it, because baseball is a game of failure and you just got to keep on grinding no matter what happens. And so we just toughed it out. We said, we're not going to fail, and it wasn't an option. And so what we did was we just got behind our customers. We just told them, hey, if you can't come to a store, and you shouldn't come to a store, we want you to be able to buy stuff online. So we moved all our stuff from our stores that were unique to our stores that you usually couldn't get online. We moved it online, and people got behind us, man. Our customers are awesome. They're super loyal. And when we said we were behind them, they just kind of rallied behind us. And basically our online sales went up 70%, even though our retail sales were down 50%. So,
Wow.
We ended up doing well in 2020 despite the pandemic. So that was it was a test, and it was tough, especially in March and April, but we came through it all right.
Yeah. And what's it been like, moving a lot of stuff digital? Was that a tough transition for you, or was it just like, this is how the world's going, we got to just, pretty much keep up with it and keep up with demand as well?
Yeah. We're blessed to have a large social media following. So we were able to transition that pretty well. We just basically, we shot out an email to all our customers. We put us on Instagram, Facebook, and just people people responded well. I mean, if we were a solely brick and mortar company and didn't have a large e-commerce presence and a social media presence, we probably wouldn't be here talking right
Yeah,
now.
right.
We'd be done. But we're just lucky that we kind of started in e-commerce first. So we were big first there, and then we went brick and mortar.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. We'll come back to that in a little bit. I wanted to kind of get your background here. So you're originally from Hawaii, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. When did you come
Yeah.
over, or I guess how was the early years there? And then when did you come over to the States? Or
Yeah, I
I'm
love
sorry,
Hawaii.
to the
So
mainland.
yeah, that's right. We get that all the time. But yeah, I mean, Hawaii was great. Grew up in Hawaii my whole life until I was 18 years old. I mean, real laid back atmosphere. Played baseball there since I was 5 years old. And it was just a lot of fun growing up in Hawaii. But my mom just said, you know what, if you want to be anything or you want to learn the world, you got to get off this island. So I wanted to go to the University of Hawaii or some local school, but my mom said, you got to get out of here. So she forced me to apply to all these schools on the mainland, and Oregon just happened to be the best school I got into, the only one that I heard of. So
Yeah.
I got into Oregon and I went there.
Gotcha. Nice.
Yep.
Okay. So as far as baseball goes, when like obviously I don't know how much baseball was being played in Hawaii when you were younger, but how did you really get into baseball? I know I've seen you say your parents weren't big baseball people. So how did you get into baseball?
My parents weren't big baseball people, but they were big into getting me out of the house and being active. And I was a super hyper kid. So they
Okay.
just dragged me to soccer, baseball, volleyball, like basketball, all the sports. And so I ended up playing three sports in high school. And then baseball was just the sport I fell in love with because the people that surrounded me were just, I mean, the nicest, and I had the most in common with them. And like just going to games was just more than the game. It was going to the game, then eating food afterwards, playing in the park afterwards, and then going to somebody's house afterwards and sleeping over. So it was more than just the game for me. It was just the people that surrounded the baseball community that
Right.
made me
Yeah.
fall in love with baseball.
For sure. It's definitely a tight knit group. I totally agree with that. As far as your high school years, I know you played a little bit in high school, and I remember you talked about that in another article somewhere. What kind of happened in high school as far as your baseball career was concerned?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was a pretty unique and painful situation for me in high school. I was a great player growing up, naturally talented. My parents weren't baseball people, and so I never really had, I never had private lessons, and I always treated baseball like something to do I did for fun. And when I transitioned to playing for my school, that kind of stopped, and it kind of really changed for me, and I didn't really know how to react to it. I played shortstop my whole life. I started over my friend who was also on my team who played shortstop. And then I went to play for my team in school in intermediate. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't the starting shortstop anymore. His dad was a baseball coach at the high school. His uncle was the head coach at the high school. And his brother was the starting shortstop on varsity. And so like all of a sudden it went from, Travis, you're the best player on the team. You're starting. It wasn't even a question to like, okay, no one knows me. What do I do? And
Right.
so I kind of just didn't really know what to do, and my parents didn't really know what to do either. And so I let him have the shortstop position, and I didn't even try out for shortstop. And I played outfield and third base. And so the following year, after that, I actually got a chance to start at shortstop because we had two intermediate teams. We were a big high school.
Uh huh.
And so I got the starting job. So I'm like, I don't even need to compete with my friend. I'm just gonna play shortstop and show people how good I am. And then the first game of the season, I broke my arm, sliding into second. And so that was just kind of like the downward spiral for me in high school. I broke my arm in the first game of the season, didn't play that entire year in eighth grade, came back the next year, made the team, but didn't really play at all. And then I played one more year, my sophomore year, and then I tried for varsity my junior year, and I didn't make the team. And it was kind of like I knew I wasn't the player I used to be after I broke my arm and I came back. And so it was really frustrating for me because things that were easy back when I was, 5 to 12 years old were just really, really difficult. And it was super frustrating for me, but it kind of made me who I am. It made me realize the value of work ethic because I didn't have it back then. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm talented. I can do whatever I want. And yeah, and when I got to college, I made the club team. And so that kind of changed me and gave me a second chance at baseball. And I really took advantage of that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because you've mentioned when you got I guess at your size or whatever, and the Oregon didn't have a baseball program at the time when you were there, but you got to play for a club team. What was that like for you? And it kind of maybe revalidated what kind of player you were when you started playing on the club level there.
Yeah, so I did really well on the club team, and I saw that I was still a good player in comparison to some other players that were trying out and had played varsity baseball at their high schools. And I just decided one day that I wanted to show myself how good I could have been if I had hit the weight room every day, if I had actually put extra work into it. And so I did that, and then one thing that was just like kind of like stands out to me the most, like aside from and like I did real well in club baseball, um, but I went back to Hawaii and played summer ball with my friends from Hawaii, who all went on to play college ball. And I led that team in hits, I led them in batting average, and I led them in stolen bases. And so it was like the guys that made the team and I didn't make the team. I led the summer team in hits. And so that was really kind of like, okay, this is working. Work ethic is a thing. And like I was talented and I could have made the team. I just didn't put the work into it. And that's kind of carried on through my whole life.
That's awesome, man. It's a good lesson for you for sure. That's great. You were able to do that and kind of show those other guys like, hey, I can ball, man.
Yep,
um,
for sure, man.
as far as being immersed in the baseball culture, and then you started working in summer camps, which kind of was the beginning, as you've talked about, of your whole revolution here. What was kind of the plan with those summer camps, and how did it all start for you in the summers when you were going to college?
Yeah, so like I said, I played on the club baseball team, and I had to take summer classes one summer, and we had to get jobs, and I was like, hey, instead of getting jobs, let's run a youth baseball camp. Um, as you know, in University of Oregon, we didn't have a D1 team back then, but football is really big, so there was no youth baseball camp that the college ran for the University of Oregon in that area. So we're like, there's a gap here that needs to be filled because it was so football heavy. And so we started youth baseball camp for 8 to 12 year olds, um, just at a park next to the school. Had about 25 kids per week. Did it for every week during the summer, and we called it baseballism. And so, I mean, that's just kind of how we got started. It was just myself and three other teammates just teaching kids fundamentals and how to play the game the right way and the lessons you can learn from baseball. And that was baseballism when it first started.
Right. And then, I guess if people don't understand what baseballism is, how would you describe what the brand means?
I would say it is a way to show people that you're proud of the sport you play or played without wearing a jersey or, a pair of cleats or carrying a baseball bat around. It's just a subtle way of saying, hey, like I play baseball, I'm a baseball person, you know, I know what I'm talking about when I go to a baseball game. So it's kind of like what Lacoste is to tennis. It's a lifestyle brand for baseball people to show how proud they are of the game.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes total sense. As far as now, so you did the camps for a couple summers. Then, kind of, what happened to you and your buddies that were kind of in on baseballism with you? How did it all go from you guys are in college and now you're, a couple years where you weren't together, and then you formed everything in 2013. So, how were those years from college to then?
Yeah. So after we left the camp, we graduated. So we had to go our separate ways, get jobs. So I was a teacher. We had a guy that joined the military and was a JAG lawyer. One guy was a finance manager at a medical hospital, and then my other friend who was a pitcher. He ended up being a sales rep for Ringer Sports, and so we all did different things in different fields, different skill sets. But everywhere we went, we would wear our camp T-shirts around. That's just said baseballism, our logo, and people would ask us, "Where'd you get that shirt? Where'd you get that shirt?" And so we'd still get together every once in a while, team reunions, and we realized that people were asking us where we got that shirt. So I told the guys, hey, I'm gonna make a run of shirts. I'm gonna sell them at the baseball academy where I'm doing private lessons because I was teaching and doing private lessons at the time. And I'll see how it goes. So I made a run of 48 shirts and they sold out in 2 weeks. And so I called the guys back. I'm like, hey, I mean, I think we got something here. Let's move forward with this. And so that's kind of how it started. And then I built the baseballism social media account, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and kind of grew that organically because I was a baseball coach and I would tweet people just, things that coaches say all the time. And people, if you're a baseball person, you know the lingo, like
Right.
3 up, 3 down, stuff like that. Uh, People get you, and then people related to the account that we built on baseballs. And so we built the account, and then we launched the website in 2013, and it's just been berserko ever since.
That's great, man. So, were you living in Eugene the whole time,
Oh no,
Oregon?
we all moved to Portland. So we
Okay.
just happened to all go to Portland, Oregon. We had one guy that did join the military, so he didn't come and work for us physically until 2014. But the other two guys that lived in Portland, Oregon.
Okay. And then I saw that you've moved around a bunch of different warehouses and you guys were just outgrowing yourself. So in 2013, what was that first year like where I think it was out of your garage for a little while, like, with where all the inventory was? What was that first year like?
I mean, the first year, I mean, it was truly like when we first started, it was truly just a way to get our guys together, just like a dugout, and just kind of extend our baseball team experience. Because when you leave the game, you want to keep playing somehow,
Right.
and you miss the guys that you're with.
Right.
And so that was just our way of keeping together when we started the business. And so I would take orders and I would pack them out of my 1-car garage. I would iron the shirts before I mailed them out. I didn't know what I was doing. I was
Yeah.
handwriting every single label. And it was just something we just did as a side hustle. I was like, I don't know if we're going to make money on this. Maybe we will, but it'll just be a fun way of getting together every weekend to brainstorm stuff. But eventually it just started picking up. We made a shirt that said 6 + 4 + 3 = 2. I don't know if you've seen that one, but it kind of went viral. It went viral on social media, and it kind of put us on the map for baseball people everywhere. And then slowly but surely orders started pouring in, and just the garage got too small, and then we had to move somewhere else. So it was just it's a crazy story, man. It's the American dream.
It really is, for sure. So is your headquarters mainly in Oregon, or where's the main headquarters now for you guys?
Yeah, so we have our main warehouse and office in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're down obviously in Orange County.
Yeah, I'm in Orange County.
Okay.
That's one thing the pandemic taught me, is that I can work abroad and still be okay, because we were all working from home anyway.
Right.
And so I was like, well, I'm from Hawaii. I'm a warm weather guy.
Right.
I can't be too far away from Portland. I can't go back to Hawaii, but I'll go somewhere where I like the temperature a little bit more.
Right. As far as, I just want to quickly go back to Oregon. So just the experience in general, going to school there and, going to Ducks football games at Autzen State, like, what was the whole experience like for you going to college there?
Man, it was great. I mean, it was a culture shock for me because I'm Asian, and I probably was in most classrooms when I went into, I was the only Asian guy in there. It was definitely a culture shock, but it definitely toughened me up.
Okay.
I'm not related to one person in Oregon. When I got sick, I couldn't drive home to mom.
Right.
I was just there by myself. So it just taught me how to survive, But as far as the college atmosphere from Oregon, in Oregon, it's great. I mean, the weather, that could be better for me. But I mean, just going to Duck football games and just seeing something on that scale, because I'm from Hawaii. I'm a big University of Hawaii fan, naturally.
Sure.
And those, compared to a Hawaii game versus an Oregon game, it's night and day. Like,
yeah,
it's on a college campus, like everyone's making noise. Ducks are winning games, where in Hawaii we weren't that great when I was in college. So I mean, just the college atmosphere in Oregon was great. It was a great experience.
Yeah. Now, what's crazy is, Oregon's obviously a huge Nike school. So what's it like for you even then, at the time when you were just starting out, and even now? What's it like going against, I don't know if you're going against Nike, but being in competition with Nike, Adidas, and these big brands that you've carved out a spot for yourself, which is awesome. But what's it been like competing with the big brands?
Yeah, it's actually been pretty good. I mean, we get a lot of respect from them. We actually did a Nike collab. We did a special release shoe. So, I mean, it's a pretty wild story, because our original headquarters, which is my 1-bedroom apartment where we packed orders out of the garage, was less than a mile away from Nike campus. And so I could actually see Nike, like from my driveway.
Okay.
And so basically, I mean, like, just doing a collab with them and actually playing on their level for a little bit. I mean, not really playing on their level, but actually having a Baseballism shoe that has the Nike switch on it, that was kind of crazy. But I mean, we try to stay off the field. I mean, yeah, we try to stay off the field and not compete with them when it comes to, like, Under Armour kind of stuff.
Right.
Cleats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Batting gloves. We don't do that. We try to stay more of, lifestyle brand.
Gotcha. Okay. That's probably a good idea. I'm sure a lot of companies have tried and failed doing that. So,
yeah.
As far as your first store, when was your first brick and mortar store built, I guess, and where was it at?
Yeah, our first store, believe it or not, was in Cooperstown, New York.
Oh, Hall of Fame.
And so we're right next to the Hall of Fame on Main Street. And the reason why we're there is because I was a varsity baseball coach while running Baseballism too. And I had to coach the 12U team during the summers. And so if you're not familiar with Cooperstown, there's like 200 teams that go there every week. 12U baseball. It's like Disneyland for kids, baseball kids. And so I saw that when I was coaching, and I was like, man, like, if there was a Baseballism store here, it would just crush, because these are our people. Like, they're not cheering for any specific team. These are players that know the game, parents that know the game. Like, this is where we would do well. And so we started a store. We decided, hey, if we're going to open a store, let's go to Cooperstown. It'll tell a good story for our brand. And so 2,000 miles away in Cooperstown, New York, from our headquarters in Portland, Oregon, we decided to open a store, and it's done really, really well.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's great. Perfect spot for it. So just real quick before we get to, I want to talk about the logo, but just talking about your social media, what's it been like creating content on there over the years? And I follow you on there, and I see, you and your buddies or partners in the business are always having fun. You want to be a part of that club, the Baseballism club. So what's it been like, hanging out with those guys, but also creating content that's kind of inclusive to your people?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. I mean, until we started to work from home. I mean, we would come to work and we'd be sitting side by side, just like we were in a dugout every day.
Right.
And so it was just like, people were jealous. They're like, "Are you kidding me? You get to go and sit with your best friends every day." But I mean, it's really worked out. But I mean, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And on social media, I mean, like, we just try to relate to people. We just want to. We try not to be too uppity, and we try to show our customers that we're one of them, because we are.
Yeah.
We played, we coached, we have kids that play baseball. We're just trying to be as authentic as possible, because we are baseball people, and baseball can be really serious, and baseball can be really fun, and baseball is for old people and baseball is for young people. So we try to cover that whole spectrum on our social media, and people just respond to it really well.
Yeah, no, you guys do a great job with that. I want to talk about the logo. So it's called the Flagman, which is the one I'm wearing right here, the Babe Ruth logo. I have heard the story, but I want you to tell my listeners, how did the logo come about? And then how you got in touch with the Babe Ruth estate, and how they're all cool with it, and you licensed the deal and everything. So how'd the logo become what it is?
Yeah, so we were trying to figure out, because if you look at a lot of iconic brands, they have a text logo, obviously, but they also have a symbol that represents them. And so early on, we're like, okay, let's look at some of these big time brands, and I guess we think we need to have a symbol. And so we sat down and we're just like, what should we do? And we saw Air Jordan and stuff like that, and we're like, what about Babe Ruth? What about his swing? And so we didn't want him to just do like a guy with a bat, because that's kind of overplayed when it comes to baseball design. And so I fiddled with it, and I put an American flag in Babe Ruth's hand. And I was just like, this is it. Like, this is the logo we're looking for, because it stands for everything we stand for. It's Americana, it's tradition, it's baseball. And it's just, I mean, it just tells a story when you look at it. You know exactly what you're getting into when you buy the Flagman hat.
Yeah.
And so to license it, we're just lucky enough to have a great team. And Kalen Boudman, who's one of our co-founders also, he's the guy that was a military lawyer. He's like, if we're going to do anything, we got to do it the right way. And I'm really proud of that, because like, nowadays you see people ripping off everybody on the internet and e-commerce all the time, but we do everything the right way because of Kalen. Well, we all want to do things the right way, but I tend to cut corners sometimes, but Kalen's like, we got to do it this way. And so he got in touch with the Babe Ruth estate, and we got this thing licensed, and we have a great relationship with them, because not a lot of people are putting a lot of Babe Ruth content out there, and we're doing it on a daily basis. So it's a great partnership, and we're just happy to have their consent and them being proud to have our brand connected to their family.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's awesome. It's a really cool logo, and it's a really cool hat too. As far as like products and designs and catchphrases that you're going to use, how do you guys? Obviously, you test like stuff, but how do you decide like, all right, this is going to play well, or this is a cool baseballism phrase that everybody will know or latch onto? How do you decide on those things?
Well, a lot of it just comes from being baseball coach. You know, we know what people respond to, and we're baseball. I mean, it really helps that we all played baseball in college. We know our market totally, and if we would buy it, there's a good chance other people would buy it.
Right.
And so things like "live life like a 3-1 count," just quotes that we put out on Twitter, and people really really respond to it. We know that, hey, we got something there. People are really retweeting this hundreds of times. And so that's kind of how we do it. We test it out on Twitter. If it does well on Twitter, we'll make a graphic out of it, put it on Instagram. If people like it on Instagram, then we'll turn it into a product. And so it's a good way of kind of testing the market without investing a whole lot in inventory.
Yeah.
And so that's how we did it starting off. We don't do that so much anymore. We kind of just make products. We know it'll work. But in the beginning, it was a good way of scaling our business, because we didn't make anything that didn't sell.
Right. Exactly. No, that makes total sense. And you've had, I don't know if it's licensing deals, but you also have Ted Williams and Roberto Clemente, I believe. And I want to talk about Justin Turner in a little bit. But as far as those guys, is that also the same licensing deal like the Babe Ruth stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean it's different. We're different, working with different firms, but it's
Okay.
pretty much the same deal. Yeah, anything
Okay.
we put, anytime it's a Roberto Clemente item, a portion of the sales is going to his family. And so, I mean, and those again, like we do a good job of just kind of bringing back those heroes back to life because as we get older, those guys get further back in the past,
Right.
and like they get brought up less. So I feel like it's kind of our duty to keep those legends alive. And so we're really proud that we can, strike deals with Clemente family, Ted Williams, Babe Ruth. I mean, just just connecting with those people and their families is just great for us, and it really sells well. People respond to it, and especially Roberto Clemente. I mean, that's
Yeah.
probably our biggest license for a player, but it's been really good for us.
I think that's crazy because you guys obviously a newer lifestyle brand. So you wouldn't think like, all right, let's pull like the nostalgia play is like 20, 30 years ago. But if you're pulling from way back then, that's not risky, but you know what I mean? For the younger generations, like who's Ted Williams? But it's cool that you guys have been able to make it still, like you said, all generations included.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing we take pride in is just making the old school cool.
Yeah.
Like presenting things in different ways to a modern audience that may think it wasn't cool in the past, making say, hey, this is why it's cool. Like
Right.
like like the shirt you're wearing, like
Yeah.
make putting kind of modern art and making it baseball centric is kind of our niche.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. So now I want to talk to you about Justin Turner. So I'm a Dodger fan, of course. I follow his career, and he's a SoCal, Orange County guy as well.
Yep.
You obviously connected with him, and he's one of another player that's kind of an ambassador for you guys. So, what are your thoughts on him, the person, and what made you guys come together for a deal with this?
Yeah, so when we first started out, we saw that he was wearing our stuff on Instagram. And this was maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. And we're like, how did Justin Turner get our stuff? And so we looked up orders and Justin Turner's orders weren't there. But then we saw his girlfriend, now his wife, um, wearing our stuff too. And we're like, huh, maybe his wife bought something for him. And so we looked up our orders and we saw that, oh yeah, okay, she bought something. And so once we saw that she ordered something from us, we just sent him to the house. We're like, okay, it's Justin Turner. He can get, a whole box of goodies. And so we sent it to him and he just kept on wearing it. And just basically to thank him for wearing it, he has a charity golf tournament every year
Right.
in Southern California. And so we're like, hey, we got to thank this guy for doing what he's doing because we're not paying him to do anything. And so we paid, the fee to get into his golf tournament. We donated a bunch of money to his charity and we got to meet him in person. And man, he is just one of the most down to earth, good guys in baseball you can ever meet. I mean, like I got nothing bad to say about that guy. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a grinder. He wasn't. It doesn't seem. I feel like he's one guy that knows exactly, how lucky he is to be where he is, and he gives it back to the community. So I mean, he's my favorite guy when it comes to the guys that wear our stuff in the big leagues.
That's awesome. No, that's really cool that you guys were able to connect and do that. Is there something you look for in guys, like traits you look for with players that you want to represent your brand? How do you go about choosing who you want to work with?
I think the guys that we like to give stuff to and represent our brand are guys that are not that everybody can get on board with. There's not a lot of guys like that.
Yeah.
There's kind of like players that do things that the old school frowns upon, and then there's guys that are too boring for the new school to get on board with, I
Yeah.
guess. But we try to give stuff to guys that we feel represent the game the right way and play the game the right way, and are not going to be in the headlines for something bad that they did off the field. And so, like, you kind of like the Derek Jeters, the Mariano Rivera's of the world, the put your head down and go to work kind of guys. Those are the guys that we really love,
Yeah.
just because those guys end up being forever. Those
Right.
guys are the most loved guys, and so those are the guys we get on board with. I mean, guys that represent the brand that are not egomaniacs, basically.
Right. Right. Yeah. Now, as far as did you have anything that plans that maybe got derailed because of the pandemic? I know you moved a lot of stuff online, but as far as your stores are going and all that stuff, what's kind of your outlook for everything that you might have looked at in 2019 going into last year, and then what's it look like for 2021 and forward now?
Yeah, I mean, in 2020, we were planning on expanding. We were planning on making more stores, but because of COVID, it just it makes us look over things and say, hey, this may not work. And so
Yeah.
to open another store is probably a bad idea right now. And
Yeah.
so we're investing more on our headquarters, making our workplace a better environment to work, and just like our social media and our videographers and stuff like that. Just trying to make our e-commerce presence better, but we're also trying to get back on the ground. We want to run a bunch of free baseball camps this year, and start getting back to our baseball camp roots. Because as this has gone on and gotten bigger and bigger, we kind of forgot, who we were when we first started the baseball camp, and we really want to get back to that, on giving back to the community, and just getting bats and gloves and balls into kids' hands.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be great. Once obviously, it's safe and everybody can do that. That'd be awesome for the community. As far as spring training goes, if there is one, hopefully all goes well. I think there will be. But what do you guys? What do you typically do during spring training? I'm sure you have a big, I guess plans for exposure in that time.
Yeah, so we're in two minor league stadiums. We're in the A's facility, Hohokam, and we're in Salt River Fields, where the Giants and no, I'm sorry, the Rockies
Diamondbacks.
and
Yeah.
the Diamondbacks play. And then we have a store in Old Town Scottsdale. And something special we do every spring training, it's kind of to kick off the season, is we do a couple hat giveaways. So in the middle of March, we do, if you buy anything in our store, then you get a free baseball cap, and it's a limited cap that you only can get by going to the store. Whether it's online this year or not, I'm not sure, because of the pandemic, we can't
Right.
make it solely in store, because there's just too many people that come. Because there's literally a line of like hundreds of people lining up for that thing every spring
Right.
training. So we have to be careful with that. But I mean, that's pretty much what we got going in spring training, if we have a normal spring training or
Right.
semi-normal.
Right. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about your big release this year coming up in about a month or so. What's happening with Baseballism, and what's the big release you guys have coming up?
Yeah, so this is pretty big for us. I mean, we're doing a collab with Ken Griffey Jr. and we're releasing a collection in I want to say the mid to late February. And his catchphrase that he likes, that he told us, is, "I'm your favorite player's favorite player." And so one of the shirts says, "I'm your favorite player's favorite player," and I think it's just great, because the story is that he went up to a kid, and he asked the kid, "So who's your favorite player?" And the kid goes, "Cody Bellinger." And he goes, "Well, Cody Bellinger, I'm his favorite player. So I'm your favorite player's favorite player."
Dude, that's awesome, man. He's my favorite
Yeah.
player when I was growing up. It's perfect. I'm getting that shirt for
Oh
sure.
yeah, man. So I mean, he's our first living licensee. So we do a lot of legends, obviously, with Roberto Clemente and Ted Williams. But he's our first living player that we're doing a collab with. So that's exciting.
Dude, he's a living legend. I mean, that is going to sell like that.
Oh yeah, I wish I could
Yeah.
tell you more, but we're
Yeah.
trying to keep it. But I told you that one quote too that I really like, so it's gonna be a lot of fun.
That's awesome, man. No, I can't wait to get it. And as far as where can everybody find all your stuff on social media, and also the website? Where can they order stuff? And I can put links also after the show in the show notes. But where can everybody find you and the stores?
Yeah, so we're at Baseballism on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We have stores across the country: Texas, Irvine, San Francisco, Atlanta, Cooperstown, New York, St. Louis, Field of Dreams, which is a really cool store in Iowa.
Nice.
Yeah, and in Portland too, where our headquarters is. So we have
Right.
stores across the country, and Chicago as well, outside of Wrigley. So
Okay.
you can find us there. If not, it's just baseballism.com is the e-commerce website.
Nice. Awesome, man. Well, hey, I appreciate it. You're doing great things, and I wish you the best of luck, and looking forward to that Griffey release very soon.
Oh man, I am too. Thanks for having me, man.
For sure. Thanks. Phenomenal episode with Travis Chock, the CEO of Baseballism. Glad to have him on. I hope you guys really enjoyed his story. I mean, it's true American dream, and they went for it and did it and built this whole thing off of baseball camps and just, being a baseball guy. So, or gal, so it's a great thing they're doing. Like I said, I'm wearing these items. These are Baseballism items, the LA shirt with the batting gloves, and also the flagman, the signature logo hat. Love the brand. I'm going to try to post those links for you down in the show notes. Please check for that so you can buy some apparel and be a part of the Baseballism Club. As always, you can follow me at Too Tall Sports Podcast on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at Too Tall Sports. Please subscribe and hit the bell notification on YouTube so you can watch all the interviews. And we like to drop an interview every Thursday. Just FYI, be on the lookout for those. Follow me everywhere else on social media, Facebook group if you'd like to join us there. If you like to listen on Apple Podcasts, please hit see more episodes and see all. Go all the way down wherever you can, hit the 5-star rating, and make sure you do that to help exposure for the show. That'd be a lot of, we really appreciate that. And also, you can check us out on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music. You can check us out everywhere. So wherever you get your podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review where you can. So hope you enjoyed the episode today, and we'll get you with another great episode next week. Enjoy your day. Thanks a lot.